Now, I don't know about you, but I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I was a teenager, what I wanted to do when I grew up. Had a couple of ideas, nothing for sure though. Some people, though, are very certain about what they want to be when they grow up, and often from a very young age. Now, Ben Lee is a terrific Aussie muso who started his career in music at the tender age of just 14. And he started out with the band Noise Addict, and he's been an addict to music ever since. He's become a household name with catchy tunes like Catch My Disease and We're All in This Together. And Ben Lee has brand new music. Yeah, he was born for it, and he is still doing it and doing it strong and doing it well. And he's with us right now with the disco lights turned on from your studio. Ben Lee, welcome to Afternoons.
Thank you. Yes, I know we're on the radio and everything, but I just thought, you know, as a performer, I live to entertain. I wanted to give you the full experience.
Well,
so I've got some disco lights, a backdrop. You know, I just want to make it enjoyable for you.
You're wearing the cowboy hat. People who are watching on the webcam can enjoy the full experience, in fact. So go to the 2GB websites and have a look at the webcam and you'll see Ben Lee in his full glory. Tell you what, this year has been a powerhouse for you. Not that any other year hasn't been, but 2021, you've come into your own and you've got new music. What's the inspiration behind this new track?
Well, the song, can I say the full title on this radio station?
Let's just say the BS version, the clean version, yes.
Yeah. Born for this BS. Well, it's funny because it started off very personal in that it was about like as an entertainer, as a musician, like how do you deal with like the nonsense of show business? And how
there's plenty of nonsense in it.
Stamina. Yeah, you gotta be built of the right stuff, you know? And then I thought that's not that different to like the depression that you can find yourself like pulled into around like climate change or the pandemic. And I just thought like I wanted to write a song that encouraged people to have some like positivity and swagger when they got out of bed in the morning.
I love that.
My friend Patience called it the like I can do hard stuff.
But swagger's a good word because I reckon that you have got a lot of swagger about you and you've shown plenty of it over the years because I mentioned at the outset you started when you were very young at 14 and, you know, you were living at large in Hollywood with all your superstar friends as well. There was plenty of swagger, but then you sort of toned things down a bit too.
My grandmother called it chutzpah. But it's definitely, look, it's funny because I think there is this element in the arts or in pop culture where you do have to kind of like, you have to carry yourself in a way that will give you the freedom to do what you want to do creatively. Because if you appear like too much of a pushover, you then can get like people try and mold you and manipulate you and stuff. So it's very important, I think, as an artist to kind of come out swinging. And in that sense, maybe you send the message that you're going to do your own thing.
And you certainly did that. And I love that, you know, it's part of rock and roll and the showbiz. You're on stage, you're creating a show and you're there to entertain people. And that's what you've set out to do with your music.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there are a lot of things that are outdated about rock and roll. I mean, a lot of it is built on incredibly like outdated, like macho patriarchal constructs around like sexuality and power dynamics and stuff like that. But the heart of it is that it's music for individuals and rebels, you know, which we all are. We all need that in our life because we all need to like figure out what we have to offer and do our own thing. And there is something innately true about that feeling you tap into with rock and roll when you're like, yeah, man, no one's going to mess with me. I'm going to do this my way.
I'm going to do it my way and I'm going to sing it loud and proud.
And I'll take responsibility if it all falls apart too, because I did it my way, and I'll take the brunt of it.
That's it. You've got to go with the highs and the lows. And the new album that you've got coming out called I'm Fun, you've worked on it during the course of the pandemic, but you've worked with a big range of people and some big names in the music industry.
Yeah, I did it sort of as like I just put a wish list together of sort of geniuses I wanted to collaborate with, and there's people from like earlier parts of my career, like people I've known for decades, like John Bryan, who a lot of people
This is
know
where you
from,
name drop.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do my thing. You know, Fiona Apple and stuff, and Money Mark, who is the Beastie Boys keyboard player, but then like younger artists like Shamir and Georgia Mack and Sadie Dupuis, and just sort of like, because I'm interested in like the roots, like of sort of like the music I make in my career, and I'm interested in also what's happening on the edges now. In that, somewhere in the midst of all that finds me kind of where I'm comfortable, you know?
And you are open to lots of different ideas and styles. It sounds as though, to me, and it feels as though with your music that you don't sort of follow a single lane. You tend to sort of swerve around a little bit to ensure that you can absorb as much into your music.
Well, part of it is that, like, I'm actually not that attached to the final thing that I make. I like the process of making it. So, like, just today, I've been doing a lot of promo, and I was saying to my wife, "Oh, I'm feeling a bit like I couldn't figure out why I was like a little low." And I was like, "Oh, because I've just been talking about making things. I need to make things.
Actually
That's the
do
part I
it.
love." So, in some ways, like, if you like making things, how it turns out in some ways doesn't even matter that much.
Yeah, it's the fun in making it. Now, I'm going to name drop here because I spoke to Gary
Okay.
Kemp earlier this year from Spandau Ballet, and he talked about how the fans that have followed and aged with him have been wonderful. But he also talked about the fact that there are so many younger artists that he collaborates with and works with, and it's opened up to newer audiences. Is that sort of part of it too, when you mention this range of people with the album I'm Fun, that you've got a lot of up-and-comers? Does that sort of give you fresh inspiration?
Yeah, well, that's sort of like I came into the music business being mentored by Sonic Youth and the Beastie Boys, who were like, they were sort of cultural kind of gatekeepers who helped younger artists. That was part of what they did. And I always saw that as like, that is the fundamental responsibility in the music scene. If you get any kind of success, you help the next people along. It just seems to be like the way it functions and the way it's healthiest. And you get the benefit of like the inspiration. Like if I'm talking to Georgia Mack or Amy Taylor from Amel and the Sniffers, I'm just lit up on their enthusiasm about music because they don't have mortgages and children and all that stuff.
They've
that
got
can
bright
make it all very
ideas burning
serious,
brightly.
you know? Yeah, exactly. So I think it's a huge part of staying lit up and inspired myself.
Yeah, well, it's a good way of ensuring that you can help others and to keep yourself interested and inspired. It's a great thing that you're doing. Now, I know that you lived in the US for a long period and you were there early in the pandemic as well. How did that experience shape you too? Because obviously we've been through and continue to go through lockdowns here in Australia, but you've been through it both overseas and here.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because the lockdown in Sydney, it's weird when I call it a bit relaxing, but literally, like in the US, the lockdowns coincided with complete socioeconomic collapse and, basically a leader who was trying to, enact a coup in order to stay in power. So the degrees of anxiety were really, really big. But honestly, it's like, I think one of the things that, look, reconnecting, bringing my family out to Australia and particularly the kids getting there, connecting with this side of the family and the ocean, the landscape, like it's such a part of who I am. And the kids hadn't really gotten the chance to fully immerse themselves. So that was one of the blessings that came out of this period.
And I bet you'll be glad, like many parents, for them to be heading back to school eventually. Your kids of school age?
Yeah, well, my stepdaughter's 19, so she's working. So she's when it gets back to the office, and the little one, yes, has to go back to school. And it's funny. You try and explain it in the generous way possible. But I was saying to Goldie, who's 12, I said, "Look, I know you don't see it this way, but you're quite demanding, and she was like, I know. So I think it's natural that we need our space too to like be creative and come up with our own ideas. And I definitely think there are going to be some like really steamy love-making sessions between
Whoa.
parents who finally on that first day when the kids go back, it's on. You know what I mean? I think parents across Sydney and Melbourne are just going to be like,
bring out the
what have
Barry
you been
White.
dreaming of? Yeah, let's make it happen.
You'll need the disco lights you've got going at the moment for your place.
Oh yeah.
And with your music, with the song "We're All in This Together," it really was embraced during the start of the pandemic, and it was also being used as a way of highlighting how, in many ways, we aren't. How does it feel to have your music sort of played like an anthem in many ways?
Yeah, well, one of the biggest lessons that came out of that whole thing was that as a creator, you really don't have that much control over when and how your music will become meaningful. And it's like another layer of sort of just giving it up. Like you make things, you put them out there, and then it's really not up to you. It's almost like you're an inventor and you invent all these little tools And then at some point people go, oh, that's useful. And they use it. And you kind of have to, it taught me a little bit more about just like even releasing attachment to how something will be received.
Yeah, I guess giving up control to some degree. And you've been quite outspoken and you've been spoken about on this show. Ray Hadley was sort of very much a part of the vaccination campaign and the response that you gave to Guy Sebastian, who was distancing himself from it. It's very important for you, isn't it, to be true to yourself and true to your ideals?
Yeah, look, I'm not into like sort of piling on someone like Guy who, I think if you watch like Taylor Swift, you can see that a mainstream pop artist, it's quite a journey for them to become open and outspoken and confident in terms of talking about things that are divisive. So I try and be understanding of that. And I realize that for someone like me, who's always been on the fringes of the mainstream, it's a little easier for me just to go, yeah, I don't really care if I lose fans. Like, I literally made an album once called It Was Never About the Audience. That is a headspace that gives you the liberties to say what you want to say.
You can put it out there.
But I do think when you're in a historical moment like this, when there's so much confusion, like there's so much pain and so much confusion, and even when people are sort of like, distrustful of the government, I try and I actually understand that, and I don't think that is a ridiculous viewpoint to take. But I would say that the medical system, I have no reason to actually be distrustful of that. It's always done pretty well by me. Like anytime they've prescribed me antibiotics for an infection, it's gone away, and I haven't developed another head or anything like that. So I just I think it's good to honor why people might be suspicious or might be skeptical, and then to just help draw them back to the grounded facts. Like, just be logical about this. Like, when you're talking about community health, we're not really talking about the government. Like, and I think that's really important to just try and keep people focused on.
Yeah, and I saw that great comparison with the earthquake that happened in Victoria of people saying, well, are we going to start questioning the geoscientists now? I mean, sometimes it's just fact, and we should just accept it and be thankful for it. And I think that's definitely the case with vaccinations and with the health system. And how is it being the masked singer? Because you were the professor.
Yeah. Well, I am a mad professor.
And I'm glad you embraced that.
Like, yeah, it reminded me of that Oscar Wilde quote, "Give a man a mask, he'll show you the truth." Because in some ways you can, by taking on this persona and this costume, it does, it lets you, it's like in the Eyes Wide Shut, in the orgy scene, they all wore little masks, right? Because like you release your inhibitions with the mask, with the costume. So I actually quite enjoyed it. But it was funny, my daughter, who's 12, she was like, when I got voted off, she was getting like a bit codependent and sad for me. She was like, Dad, I'm just sad you got voted off. I said, listen, I just got unmasked on primetime television the week my single's coming out. It could be a lot worse.
Exactly. Tick, tick. Well, the single is out now wherever you stream your music, and the album will be coming out.
And people should see the video, because the video is insane for Born for This BS. It's really the weirdest and wildest thing I've ever done. So even if you don't like my music, go watch the video.
And for you, that's saying something, because we know you love to embrace wild and weird. And there is a theme here with the orgy scene and with the mums and dads getting up to mischief, because I saw you saying on social media that throwing parties is how I heal. So I tell you what, It's going to be a wild thing going on at Ben Lee's place pretty soon.
Woo! Let's do it.
Good to talk to you, Ben. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
There he is, Ben Lee, Aussie muso. And yeah, it's a great track. Have a listen to it, and we'll get back in contact with him too, I reckon, when the new album does come out.